Hello again, everyone. Welcome to your weekend preview from the opening bell with Alex and Matt, taking a look at the pyramid boxing out in Giza, Egypt. Usyk against Rico Verhoeven. Matt, I'm amazed that Usyk isn't 100 to 1 on for this. He's 16 to 1 on with the bookies, which is extraordinary, really. I mean, if you've got 16 million, there's the way to make an easy, cool million for you, quicker than the banks. in however many minutes it should take. Usyk against Rico Verhoeven. It seems an unlikely matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Rico was being lined up to fight Anthony Joshua, wasn't he? Before Anthony Joshua suffered the kind of unthinkable and tragic car crash that he was involved in, where he lost two of his closest friends at the end of December, and then all of a sudden we've got Usyk versus Rico, because back then we thought that Usyk was going to have what we would have labelled as a gimme against Deontay Wilder, and you could almost justify that. But this one is difficult to say with a straight face that it's a sporting contest. And honestly, look, I'm not losing my mind over this. I just find it a little bit bothersome, the stance of all three sanctioning bodies here. The WBC kind of led the way and immediately said, yes, we're going to sanction this as a fight. So if the unthinkable occurs and Usyk loses, then Rico will be the WBC heavyweight champion. The other two have come out with slightly different stances. Should Rico win, the IBF will immediately declare the title as vacant. The WBA will have a meeting to work out what they're going to do should Rico win. The IBF haven't said that they are necessarily sanctioning this as a fight. The WBA have said, however, that if Usyk wins, it will go down as a successful defence of the WBA title. The IBF, who are known to be the strictest of the major sanctioning bodies, have said, look, we're in a position now where this fight doesn't affect us. We are currently, given that Usyk also holds the WBC and the WBA belts, we are currently waiting for our turn to enforce our mandatory, and we're waiting on the WBC and we're waiting on the WBA. So it's not affecting anybody in the IBF ranking. So we'll allow this to continue without stripping Oleksandr Usyk for fighting a 1-0 novice. The temptation is, of course, to say that Usyk's going to get him out there in the first 3 rounds. That is the temptation. That's what people will be saying. I mean, I have done minimal kind of research on Rico. I've done a lot of reading about him, and I think that I've read a lot from experts in their field, in the kickboxing field, about Rico, and I've looked at some Rico highlights. Now, a lot of his knockouts and stoppages are not coming from his hands; they're coming from his feet. It's coming from kicks. And he's very, very reliant on how he uses his feet in kickboxing. I've got no idea what I'm looking at, really, but whether it's high kicks to the head, whether it's kicks that will trip up his opponent, he's very, very good at that. How on earth he's going to cope against a magician like Oleksandr Usyk, goodness only knows. But he clearly knows enough in the combat sports arena that I don't think he's going to get blown out of there. Usyk doesn't blow people out anyway, does he? But one would think that this isn't going to go the distance. One would think and one would hope that we will have sympathetic officials. But I think it's just going to get quite uncomfortable, to the point it gets very uncomfortable pretty quickly for this kickboxer. If it was just a non-title fight, you could just a showpiece, non-title fight, fine. But I do find the stances of the sanctioning bodies, particularly at a point where the sanctioning bodies feel like there's an invader in the shape of Zuffa boxing, and they could have really here stood up and shown what they're all about.
But no, and the WBC, as they usually, as is their wont in these occasions, they have ordered the design of a spectacular new belt just for the occasion as well. He's a big enough lump, isn't he, Verhoeven? I think he weighed 269 when he did fight. The only time he has fought boxing professionally, that was 12 years ago over in Germany. So it's a long, long while ago. He has a 9-1 chance, and at the age of 37, taking on a 39-year-old. Usyk's been out of the ring. What has he for 10 months, Matt? Do we sense? I mean, a lot of people just are giving Usyk a pass because of the run he's been on, and I think partly because it's Usyk, because of his character and his personality. I think this is why there's less noise and less stink about this, because it's Usyk. I think that's probably fair to say. Can we compare and contrast to Fury and Ngannou in any way in terms of the context and maybe the mentality and the mindset?
Yeah, I think Tyson Fury clearly came into that fight without testing himself in training, without going full pelt in training, thinking he just kind of had to turn up and he'd do a job on Ngannou. And Ngannou's awkwardness on that night, and Fury perhaps not doing as much homework as he should have done. There were times in that fight where Fury looked like he was going to lose. I remember watching that, being astonished. I also remember being in the arena when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather. And even though Mayweather toyed with him at times, McGregor did better than I thought he would. And I think it's those two fights which are stopping me from saying this is just going to be a complete domination for Oleksandr Usyk. What I will say is that Usyk will not have taken shortcuts in training. He may go into it. I mean, psychologically, surely he can't be going in with the same level of respect and fear that he would have had when he fought Anthony Joshua for the first time, in the two fights with Tyson Fury, perhaps the Daniel Dubois rematch. He just can't. He must know. He's not stupid. He's far from it. He must know that if he does what he does, this is an easy fight for him. And whether that will that bleed into overconfidence and then give Rico more of a shot? No, I don't think necessarily it will. I suspect it will go rounds. I don't expect it to be over in the first one or two, but I don't expect it to go. I don't expect it to go the full 12.
No, I think Usyk will absolutely bamboozle him. And let's not forget, he hurt Tyson Fury and he's knocked out Daniel Dubois not once but twice. Surely he's got to knock this guy out at whatever stage.
The bigger question is what does everybody say and what happens if he doesn't? That's the jeopardy here. The jeopardy for me isn't that Oleksandr Usyk loses. To me, the notion that Usyk loses this fight is borderline nonsensical. It's if he looks bad, and what does that then do to his reputation? What if this is the fight at the age of 39, after a lifetime dedicated to fighting, after an amateur career fought at the very highest level and professional career fought at the highest level, where he's essentially cleaned out both cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions? What if this, at the age of 39, is where Usyk just to start to realise that he looks a little bit ordinary? Or rather, he starts to feel a little bit ordinary and he can't call on all of the superpowers, and it's just not a pleasing spectacle at all, and he is forced to labour. Then what happens? Then what does the perception of Oleksandr Usyk that we've all got of him start to change? Does he then walk away? That for me is the danger here, is that this could be the fight where Usyk looks ordinary and he's not in there with someone to whom he can pass the torch. But it is what it is. It's showbiz. It's entertainment with punches and gloves, isn't it? It's one of those. But at least they have made an effort to kind of stack the rest of the card. But what do I think will happen? I've probably Usyk round 6, something like that. I think Verhoeven will go rounds. I don't think it's going to look particularly competitive at any point. There might be a moment where Verhoeven lands a shot and that becomes the viral moment on social media at that particular time. But overall, Usyk should dominate this contest.
And I think he will. I think he will. Looking forward to seeing if Richard Torrez can take the next step forward. He's up against Frank Sanchez, who, of course, was mauled by Catterall in 7 rounds previously. He's gone 10 rounds 4 times as well. You wonder if Sanchez can punch hard enough to keep Torrez off him, because Torrez he'll apply a similar kind of pressure to Catterall behind the southpaw stance. He brings that sort of verve and that enthusiasm of youth at the age of 26, of course. He was an Olympic Games finalist, so he's got a bit of amateur background. I think Torrez will look to really press and attack, and his energy to overcome Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, this it's an important fight in regards that they're essentially fighting for that mandatory position in the IBF rankings. Sanchez used to be kind of really highly regarded, hasn't really done anything to merit this chance, though, in all honesty, since he lost to Jack Catterall very convincingly in 2024. And if that's the evidence that we have of Sanchez at the highest level, then Torrez will be going into this, I suspect, as a favourite. 14-0, 12 KOs, a southpaw, kind of the only emerging force in American heavyweight boxing. If you kind of Deontay Wilder is at the end of his career. Jared Anderson, jury's still very much out on him. So there's a lot of pressure on Torrez to do well here, and I think he'll get the job done.
Yeah, I think he will as well. I think he might look quite good doing it as well. He's got a fan-friendly style. He's a guy who's sticking his hand up like Ergovic for Moses Atoma. He's already saying, yeah, no problem. I'm game for that. I'm up for that. I like his attitude. I like his attitude a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this event is ripe for someone like Torrez to steal the show and kind of breathe new life into an already kind of thriving heavyweight division. If he can do a real job on Sanchez, then all of a sudden he's going to be in that conversation with your Caballeros, your Daniel Dubois, about people that will be looking to take over when Usyk eventually walks away.
And if you need any evidence about how fighting for all those sort of spurious fringe sanctioning body associated titles works, getting you up the rankings, then you only have to look at Hamzah Sheeraz's opponent fighting for a vacant world title this weekend. Alem Bagic, the 39-year-old German, who's fought in Austria, Switzerland, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Germany 18 times as well. He is unbeaten in 30, but nearly turning 40. He's a who? And that's how you get these opportunities. That's work in the system. This is set up for Hamzah to add perhaps another highlight to his showreel.
It's such an underwhelming fight, in all honesty. Yeah, I mean, he's 39 years old, as you say. He's been inactive since last April. Hasn't had a fight for 13 months. Haven't seen anything in his form line to suggest that he has even the slightest chance here against Sheeraz. And if you're looking for a potential early blowout, this might well be it. What I don't know about him is what his chin is like. How durable is he? That's the only kind of real question mark about whether this fight goes rounds or it doesn't.
Well, I don't think he's even Edgar Berlanga by a long stretch, and he was dispatched in 5 spectacularly by Sheeraz. This is set up for Sheeraz to look good. I think the most competitive fight of the night is probably Catterall against Shakram Giyasov, isn't it, Matt? Giyasov, a talented Uzbek who's based out in the States. He's on a bit of a run right now, although he is jumping up in class.
He is jumping up in class, and it's one of those, I think, Catterall, if he does end up coming unstuck, you'll just feel great sympathy for him. He's at that stage of his career where he's just desperately trying to secure the big fight and having to have quite tricky assignments in order to do so. Catterall might win this good looking. It might just be a step too far for his opponent. I will pick Catterall to get the job done, but there is a bit of uncertainty around how good his opponent might be, because he has looked good at the level he's been fighting at.
He has, yeah. It's how it plays out. It's not easy to call. I suppose for the bet, I'd be leaning towards Catterall on points at 7-2, maybe, rather than Catterall slight odds on to win by knockout. I think if I'm looking at the betting, I think maybe that's potentially just swayed the wrong way. So as ever, I'm looking for the right or wrong prices, and I'm looking for the value. I think Catterall odds on for a knockout, 7-2 against to win on points. I think 7-2 looks the wrong price of the two there.
Yeah, I think.
We'll see.
Catterall on points is always a steady and sensible bet, isn't it?
Thanks to nesmedical.co.uk for their continued sponsorship for the Apple Plus and the Patreon subscribers, where you can get ad-free podcasts for starters for less than $5 a month. And you basically support the pod week to week as well. A couple of pods this week. Hope you've enjoyed. We'll be back again next time. Bye for now.